up on that aluminum tab that runs the length of the window. Don't do that now, or I'll have to get you all back off and reset those windows. But if you lifted that up and pushed that window out, that opens up as the emergency exit. On the ceiling also are two emergency exits if the bus were to tip over on the side. If the bus is upright, don't go out that way because you're going to jump down 13.5 feet out of the ladder. And sir, how would you like to be a fire marshal today? Okay, right behind me is a fire extinguisher. When I light my cigar up, you can douse me down. Okay? No smoking on the bus. Anyway, this white line right here, nobody goes beyond that white line as the bus is in motion. And I will always be the first one off of the bus. I'll get a footstool out for you so you don't have a second trip. And I'll be the last one on. Is everybody ready to have a good time at the Fortress of the Bears?
Yes, sir.
All right. We are headed there. I'm going to take a side trip over to Sitka National Historic Park. We're just going to go through the parking lot so you know how to get there if you get off downtown, because I'll be making a stop downtown. And it's about 3/4 of a mile walk from downtown to Sitka National Historic Park, which is a National Park Service area that you can visit. Welcome to Sitka, also known as the Land of She. To the people of Southeast Alaska, that would be the Tlingit, the Haida, and the Tsimshian. And folks, they have been here for over 10,000 years. Then in the late 1790s, we had a group of Europeans show up here. Anybody want to guess who they were?
Russian?
Yes, the Russians came here in the late 1790s. They set up a fort located right behind me. It was called Redoubt St. Michael. Well, they had been here for a couple of years and a few atrocities happened. So the chieftain of the Tlingits, Catlian, decided to attack that fort. Well, he pretty much decimated that fort. And there were a few survivors from that attack. And an English captain took them up to Kodiak Island. Well, at Kodiak Island was Alexander Baranov. He was the manager of the Russian-American Company, which was a fur trading company. Anyway, he had set that fort up so that they could hunt sea otters for the fur trade in China. Well, the English captain ransomed those people off, and now Baranov was not a very happy camper, so he organized a naval ship called the Neva, a Russian naval ship. They had Russian soldiers on there, and they came down and attacked the Tlingit, what is now Sitka National Historic Park. A 5-day battle ensued there. The Tlingit were able to stave off wave after wave of landing attempts by the Russians. However, they were running low on munitions. So they sent out for a canoe. Well, the Russians got lucky from a with a salvo of cannonade that sank that canoe. Well, Catlin at that point knew his days were numbered. So he led all of his people off of this island so that they would not become enslaved by the Russians to do work for them. So they left the island for about a 20-year period. In the meantime, the Russians built up Sitka. It became known as the Paris of the West. You see, all of this was happening about the time that Lewis and Clark were just coming across the United States on their voyage. So Sitka was built up as a trading post here, and they had a fort that was built here with a governor's mansion. A Russian Orthodox church was built here. They also had a shipyard built here and a lot of tanneries for the sea otters that they were hunting. Anyway, the Russians stayed here until 1867. Then we had an American Secretary of State negotiate the sale of Alaska from the Russians to the United States. Anybody know who that was? If this is Jeopardy, you'd be down the chute. That was Seward. Yes, from the Lincoln administration. Anyway, he negotiated the sale of Alaska from the Russians to the United States. It was known as Seward's Folly because all they thought that was here was ice and snow. Anyway, we still celebrate that day here in Sitka. It's called Alaska Days. So there'll be a flag ceremony where they'll drop a Russian flag from a flagpole and then raise the stars and stripes. People will be dressed up in the regalia of the time period, and afterwards there'll be a parade in town, and after that there'll be a huge party. Now I don't know if that party is to celebrate Alaska Days per se, or the last week of tourism season. Anyway, we are an island here. We're 100 miles long by about 30 wide, and we have a population of 8,300. Well, the two ships today, I think you're almost doubled our population today with the two Royal Caribbean ships there. Anyway, so since we are an island, everything is very expensive here. So we're going to be passing one of our 3 grocery stores, and as we pass that grocery store, take a look out on Sitka Sound from their parking lot. A loaf of bread was about $8 a loaf the other day. Hamburger runs $4 to $8 a pound, $8 when it first gets here, $4 6 days later. Our main economy here is fishing. Fishing is king. So we have over 1,200 commercial and charter fishermen. And what are they fishing for? Well, of course, they're fishing for king salmon, silver salmon, or coho, sockeye salmon, pink salmon, and chum salmon. Along with that, halibut, lingcod, and rockfish. We have over 5 fish processing centers here, so fishing is king. Next in our economy is our surge medical facilities, and they're expanding those facilities now. And then third on the list is tourism. Well, last year we were discovered with 360,000 visitors, and that was right after COVID. This year we're heading for 520,000 people. Thank you for that shot in the arm. Since all of this area is mostly surrounded by Tongass National Forest, there's little land to build on anymore. Starting price for a house, stick-built house, is about $500,000. We're also considered a rainforest here. We're the second largest rainforest next to the Amazon. This is a temperate rainforest and runs throughout southeast Alaska. So here in Sitka itself, we get about 133 inches of rain, and it looks like it's going to do that today. You should have been here yesterday. The old surfer's adage. The last 2 days we had 70-degree weather and clear blue skies. This used to be our airport back in the 30s, the 40s, and early 50s. It was by float plane. They'd come up here, disembark the passengers, and now it's a dog park and a skateboard park. Our air surface is now on Japonski Island, which is an island just offshore here that has a bridge. And we get Delta and Alaska Airlines flying in here daily in the summertime, and Alaska Airlines throughout the winter. Just to the right of us is Lakeside Center. That's another grocery store. We got 3 aisles of Costco in there. However, it's shipped from Juneau, don't you know, so it doesn't cost Costco prices. They kick it up another notch or two, about a time and a quarter, time and a half what you would pay at Costco in Juneau, don't you know? Just to the left of us is Swan Lake. It's actually a dam that was built by the Russians, and that's what powered sawmills and flour mills, provided water for the bathhouses and tanneries in town. And in the wintertime, they'd cut ice out of there, sail it down to San Francisco so that they could keep their products cold. And that was included in the sale of Alaska, $200,000 for the lake and $7 million for all of Alaska. Oh, by the way, we are 2.5 times larger than Texas, just to let you Texans know. Well, you know, Alaska is one of those recreational marijuana states, and they put these traffic circles in. The smokers, well, they had a hard time getting out of here. They kept going around and around and around. If I show up too early at the Fortress of the Bears, they usually make me do a loop around there, basically a loop around an industrial park, which isn't very pretty at all. So I'm going to make a loop around the park so you can see where that is if you decide to get off. There is free shuttle service from Centennial Hall deck to the ship. And they have buses running around the clock there. They got about 10 or 12 buses running around the clock. There is no set time because they come and they go. They pick up, they drop off, pick up, drop off, pick up. That's all they do with those shuttles. So we're going to end up on Lincoln Street, and Lincoln Street is accessed by Centennial Hall, and I'll show you that when we come back. But I just wanted to show you how to get down there. Anyway, this is the Sheldon Jackson campus. It used to be a college campus. Now it's a summer music camp because they closed the campus down. Started out as a missionary school, became a high school, and then a college, and shut down. Okay, so this is Lincoln Street. Behind me is Lincoln Street. And behind that are barricades, and behind that is where all your shopping is on Lincoln Street. And just to the left of that is Centennial Hall, where I drop you off. So this is the main street through town. So you would just go to the stoplight. We only have 2 stoplights in town. We've already been through one of them. So the other one is your bearing mark to get on Lincoln Street, and you just walk to the end here. So this is Sitka National Historic Park. They have a museum and several totem poles. This is where the Battle of Sitka occurred. And there's a hiking trail that goes around there with all sorts of totem poles. And next time if you do come back here, you'll see that the tide will change by about 15 feet. Anyway, that's the visitor center inside museum, auditorium, where they show a film about people to the southeast, and in the very back they have some more totem poles that they talk about. But you can see some of the totem poles here, and the main hiking trail is right here in front of these totem poles. Sitka National Historic Park. And that is the trail entrance to the loop that goes around the park.
How long does it take to walk the park, roughly?
About 20 minutes, 25 minutes if you're a moderate walker. I don't recommend it for wheelchairs or walkers because that trail is all gravel. And so again, that's the visitor center. And kids can get their National Park Service passport stamped there if you're part of that program. That park has been around since 1910. And if you look to the left, you're going to see some jumping salmon. I forgot to mention that when we were coming in. Just look to the left, you should see some jumping salmon.
Oh, I see it. Oh, the jumping salmon.
Jumping salmon.
That's a good question. The theory behind that is for the females, it would loosen their eggs up just before they're going to run up a stream and spawn. That's the theory. Or you could say they're jumping for joy.
Both doing that.
Okay, ahead of us is a National Military Cemetery. It was the first one put together west of the Mississippi by Jefferson Davis. Now, this was not Jefferson Davis of the Confederacy. This was a Union general that was one of the first administrators here in Sitka. Anyway, we're going to switch gears and talk about bears. The bears. Let me make this turn before we get into that. Okay, in Sitka, we get the Sitka coastal brown bear. Now, this bear is only found on Baranof Island, which you're on right now, Chichikov Island, and Admiralty Island. And this bear can get up to 1,200 pounds. So there's a couple reasons why our bears get up larger to be than the interior grizzly bear, which it happens to be a subspecies of the grizzly bear. Two reasons are, number one, they have found polar bear genes in these bears. And you know, those polar bear, these bears have to put those genes on one leg at a time, just like you or I. The other reason is the prolific amount of salmon found in our river systems here. And that stream right behind us called the Indian River, salmon are so thick in there you can walk across their backs shore to shore. Well, imagine this. In the winter, they are bound up in a den all winter long. for about 4 or 5 months. And they haven't pooed. So, in the springtime, there's a plant that comes out, has a large yellow flower. It's called skunk cabbage. And it's a natural laxative for bears. So it's going to clean them all out for another season of feeding. So in the springtime, there's really not much available for them to feed on. So they only have grasses, dandelions, fern fiddleheads, sedges. So they're going to be vegetarians in the springtime. We get into late June through July, and we have berries. We have huckleberries, blueberries, and salmon berries. So there's a sugar source. And then I had just mentioned about the salmon there. First salmon that start running are the pink, and then the chunk salmon. And each one of those pink salmon, they weigh about 5 to 8 pounds. And I've sat and watched the bears feed on those salmon. They're eating about 4 or 5 of those an hour. That's about 20 to 40 pounds of fish an hour. Then they'll also go up to the mountains, get a mountain goat or a Sitka black-tailed deer. And in the flatlands, they'll pick up a tourist or two. So you've got your 4 food groups there. You got your veggies, you've got your sugars, you got your proteins, and you got your fats. All a single season of feeding. So the bears are going to breed in May and June. The female will give birth to 1 to 3 cubs, and each one of those cubs will only weigh about 1 pound. And the female bears will give birth as she is hibernating. She'll also feed the cubs while she is sleeping, and she'll get rid of the cubs only after about 3 seasons. So out the door they go. So imagine this, you're making bacon and eggs and pancakes on a Sunday, and you see this big furry thing knocking on your door that weighs about 1,200 pounds. You gonna be letting them in?
Yeah, I think so.
No. No, I heard you knocking, but you can't come in. Well, you see, in southeast here, any bear that's a problem bear, and that would be a bear that gets into the trash, gets into people's houses, garages, bird feeders. They get too accustomed to people, those bears are going to be euthanized. And if you euthanize a female bear, you have to euthanize the cubs, unfortunately. Well, we had this gentleman here, his name is Les Kiner. He didn't like that. So he got a hold of this old pulp mill that closed down in about 1993 and converted it into a bear sanctuary. And that is what we call the Fortress of the Bears now. So all the bears at the Fortress of the Bears, they came in as cubs. Okay, so the first bear that came in was Shaik, and that was in 2007, so Shaik is about 16 years old. After that, we had Toby and Lucky. They're in the same tank. These were holding tanks for timber, and now they're a bear sanctuary. And these tanks are about 9 acres in circumference, or larger than any bear holding facility in the United States. So each one is about, like I say, 9 acres. And another tank, we have Nuka and Nakiska. They came in 2017. And so they're about 6 years old. So we've got 5 Sitka coastal brown bears there. In the surrounding area, we've got 3 black bears. They also came in as cubs. And the difference between the black bears and the brown bears is, again, these are subspecies of a grizzly bear, so they're going to have that large hump on their back. If you just look to the left right now, we do have a waterfall there. That's called Thimbleberry Falls. We'll see it on the way back. So the black bears, they don't have that hump on their back. Also, their claw structures are quite a bit different. The claw structures for these black bears, well, they're designed for climbing. And matter of fact, when I worked in the Juneau market there, we used to go out to the Mendenhall Glacier quite a bit, and we used to watch the cubs out there, and those cubs could climb a 45-foot conifer tree in about 30 seconds. They are very quick. And what would they be climbing up that tree for? Well, their mother teaches them how to climb a tree as a defense mechanism against another male black bear. And so the male bears for both species will attack the cubs because the females will go into her cycle to breed when she gets rid of her cubs. So it's a breeding strategy by the male bears. They'll try to kill the cubs. And that's just part of nature with bears, unfortunately. So at the fortress, we're going to have 8 bears there. There's going to be 5 Sitka coastals and 3 black bears. Black bears are Smokey and Tulin. They came from a smoking break room in Seward, Smokey. And then we have Bandit, who is a black bear in Juneau that came here. And again, all those bears came in as cubs. They're now fully grown.